and all is set. The 8th ad hoc member committee is resuming sittings in Parliament. We can now cross over to listen in where Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will be dealing with some outstanding matters before the committee.
It's getting to 4:30. I think we should allow our colleagues to ask the questions in any form or shape that they want. Yeah, so you get, if it is your turn, take the three together. Whatever questions you have, lump them together. When you are done, and then we move on to the other one. Minister, are you comfortable with that? Good man. So who is prepared to crack it off? Yes, we're starting. Who is ready to go? Well, I'm going to use my cracker first. Should I start with you? Yes, box on.
Honourable Minister, just for the record, you mentioned the fact that the previous government misreported to the IMF. Do you remember the year in which this happened? Yes, it's my own copy. Which year did this happen?
No, I'll check it out for you.
Very well. When you mentioned it, I thought you remembered the year.
You remember, as a matter of fact, that the previous government was reported. That's important. You remember that?
I do.
You may not remember the year, but factually.
I'll get it.
That's all right. He would get the date and tell her. But fact remains that there was a report.
No. Yes. The Honourable Chief of Staff has just joined us. As I indicated earlier, I had not, recognized her when she came in earlier. So, Honourable Chief of Staff, thank you for coming to the committee.
Yeah. You had the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. My first question to the Honourable Minister relates to the current crash of the Ghanaian currency, the cedi. I see from the Minister's responses contained at paragraph 50 and 51 of his statement to us this morning that he does not want to take responsibility for the crash of the Ghanaian cedi, which is now the worst performing currency according to Bloomberg. Is that the case?
Good afternoon, co-chairs, and good afternoon. Truly, my intention in this whole censorship proceedings is not to deflect any responsibility to anyone in terms of stipulating issues of constitutionality, locus, mandate. I think we all need to be clear about that. As to my core work, as to the stability of the nation, all of these are part of what I work with in the day. Since 2017, co-chairs, we have been, Ministry of Finance, responsible for Eurobond issues to further strengthen the reserves that the bank has. We have invested in areas such as PFFJ, planting for food, so that we can export more or reduce our imports. So anything that goes to strengthen the currency, the macro stability of the country, I would take partial responsibility for.
Can we respectfully understand paragraph 51, where what you stated appears to be at variance with what you are telling us now? You seem to be saying that the cedi is depreciating because of the strengthening of the dollar. Just for consistency, where do you stand? I just want our records to reflect where exactly you are in terms of responsibility on the collapse of the Ghanaian cedi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think the censure is essentially stating, as a matter of fact, that the result that we're experiencing with the depreciation of the cedi is really the outcome of recklessness. I've not been able to figure out the recklessness that is being spoken of, and I know that there are various variables that are impacting the cedi, or for that matter, various currencies around the world. I think we shouldn't take it lightly when in 20 years for the first time the euro is less than the dollar, when in 20 years the yen has fallen, when in 20 years the UK currency is close to the dollar, or 40 years. And I'm not sure, therefore, the complexity of issues that are impacting on what happens. Am I the Minister for Finance? That's very true. Typically, every first quarter, my ministry will be able to raise $2-3 billion to be able to ensure that our BOP, is in functional mode. I have stressed that part of the reasons for our inability to be able to go to the Eurobond market was because of the delay in Parliament to be able to get our revenue numbers through. I think that responsibility also has to be taken. So yes, that did not then bring in the requisite resources that we needed, leading to certain pressures that we had not examined. But even through that, we were able to, as you know, bring in the proceeds from Ofori-Atta Bank. So I don't know that the censure question has any factual basis, and maybe I will need explanation for the correlation of that from you.
You have supervised Ghana's worst fiscal deficit in history, about 17% fiscal deficit in 2020. Do you take full responsibility for that?
Full responsibility for what?
For the fiscal deficit of 2020, which is probably the largest in the Fourth Republic.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Co-chairs, I think the question is rather simplistic. And I say so because we are all pretty learned people. We have the most cataclysmic event, almost apocalyptic, with regards to where the world is today. So for us to then make a simple statement that in this era you are responsible for something that is so globally evident. I just really am at odds with where we are leading. Is it to seek the truth, or is to just hang a finance minister at this time?
I can assure you that this is a mission based on truth and facts.
I would very much like to know the facts of where the world is at this time.
So let me share some facts. Let me share some data.
Yeah. No, Minister, when your answer is given, then we move on. We can get this banter going on in between. So your answer is given. You've given the background to it, cataclysmic, apocalyptic, and all of that. That's fine. Sami, next question.
Yes, so the minister's reference to all the apocalyptic, cataclysmic
they are facts,
circumstances
they are facts, and they
are global developments which did not affect only Ghana. And I agree with him that we are all learned people, so we will speak to the facts. I have here a comparative analysis from the World Bank website of 2020 deficit, comparing with countries within our economic category, if you like. Côte d'Ivoire did a budget deficit of 5.5%. Togo did 4.7%. Burkina Faso 5.4%. Benin 3.0%. DR Congo 1.3%. Tanzania 1.8%. Ethiopia 3.0%. Guinea 3.1%. Sao Tome and Principe 5.0%. We are the only country in this region doing above 15% of budget deficit. So how does the Honorable Finance Minister explain this? Were they not caught up in the global cataclysmic and apocalyptic exogenous factors he refers to?
Thank you very much indeed, and I'm glad that we are getting some new words into this narrative that we are discussing. You know,
the words I used cataclysmic in Parliament recently. I thought I heard a majority leader also use apocalyptic very recently, so they are not entirely new to us. Maybe the ecosystem, did we add ecosystem? The ecosystem might be the newest one. I will use it. So that's the minister's addition to the panoply of linguistic arsenal around. Yes, okay, let's go on.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament. I think really the question one would eventually ask is whether in any of these countries, even in these circumstances, you would like to live there. And that will be clear. But more importantly, the structure of the economies are very different. You know, most of these countries that you have talked about do not even control their monetary policy. Okay, they never have much of inflation. They don't control how their reserves are managed. It's a very different system. You know, so I don't know. It's hard for me to see where that angle is. And there's no question that even at every point in time in our growth these 6 years, you'd always find these Francophone countries with supposedly stronger deficits, etc., etc. But I'll bet none of us would like to live in those countries. Prosperity, safety, security, what really is the texture of this country? that we so treasure? And what does it cost to be emancipated, both on the democratic principles and also managing our economy? So I thank him for the question, but I think we should never delude ourselves that those figures exemplary would signify a sense of an index of happiness and prosperity and democracy and security.
I recall that ahead of the 2016 campaign, Côte d'Ivoire was a very dominant comparison, but it's interesting that today we are not to look in that direction. Now, I want to refer to the World Bank Country Director, Mr. Pierre Laporte, who said on the 7th of March this year that their honest analysis of the Ghanaian economic situation is that there was a certain deterioration even before COVID, and that, as he put it, we should be honest with the data and admit that we were tumbling, to use his words, we were on a tumble before COVID struck. How do you react to that?
I think that may be his opinion. I haven't really read it. But I think, be what it may, the question is, when you look at over 3 million people dying globally, about 253,000 people dying in Africa because of COVID. And Ghana, unfortunately, having 1,449 or so. Those are real issues. I don't know of my colleague finance ministers who were able to respond to COVID the way we did, with regard to electricity, water, with regard to paying people even when they were home for months, with regard to not laying off people during that period, and even going as far, co-chairs, as distributing food with the support of our faith-based organizations. There's a certain texture to this country that brings people here, get people attracted to it. And yes, we'll slip here and there, but no, we do what we have to do because we so strongly believe in the issue of human capital and how to ensure their social mobility. So I don't know what matrices he was looking at, but if I look at matrices such as tripling of the number of people we give food to, our LEAP programs, people in senior high school, etc. I mean, those are fundamental areas of investment that this government or that the people of Ghana really treasure. So would there be certain weaknesses because of expenditure? Yes, there would be, because sometimes capital investment in social services do not give you the return within a certain period. I don't think we've done anything wrong. There's always more efficiencies that we can have. And so I disagree with the statement, if it is indeed Mr. Pierre Laporte who said it. I think it could be more comprehensive than that.
In addition to Pierre Laporte's analysis of the Ghanaian situation, data from our rating agencies, the rating agencies who assess Ghana, the Sovereign Credit Ratings report from 2017 to now, if you look at the analysis, copy of which I have here, from Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, they appear to align with Pierre Laporte's analysis. You see that the downgrades had begun even before 2020. So Do you have reservations about this as well?
Co-chairs, Honorable, we have certain areas of disagreement, you might say. But I think what is clear in the world, if you look at what happened to African countries during this period, the speed with which most countries were downgraded was quite startling. It was statistically impossible, but it did occur. There's clear indication as to the bias on African countries and the quickness with which triggers are pulled when something begins to happen. That instead of them acting to be maybe counter-cyclical, they actually react in a way in which you move faster than the slippery slope of trajectory. So, as Chair of African Finance Ministers, we actually have put in place financing to be able to create Africa's own rating system. And it is that type of removing yourself from the judgment of all of these Western institutions that is going to make a difference to us. Right now, you have 29 also African countries at the fund. You have another 4 who have derailed and another 4 who are negotiating, including Ghana. And this is all because of the combination of debt, climate crisis, etc., where we've literally moved about 10 percentage points more than for our countries. So it's really a solemn period for reflection as to when we talk about political independence. It's not a real fight for economic independence or emancipation. And it's going to take resoluteness and the same unity in which Nkrumah led the independence of the continent. So that's a fight ahead.
So, Chair, another indicator which is really worrying is the debt situation under the Honorable Finance Minister. Indeed, the World Bank is projecting, the World Bank and the IMF are both projecting that we will exceed 100% of GDP. You have moved our debt from the region of about 120 billion Ghana cedis to 450 billion in quite a relatively short space of time. Many analysts have said that this has been really reckless. Do you take responsibility for Ghana's current debt overhang?
Thank you very much indeed.
Honorable Co-Chairs, I think we do have a little problem with the question that was posed by the Honorable Member.
And what is that problem?
It was a twofold question. One, he was asserting that there has been some recklessness with respect to the figures that he preferred. And then the second limb of the question was as to whether or not the Honorable Minister would take responsibility for that.
Yes.
I suppose that we need to establish, he has to prove or establish the fact that, yes, there has been this reckless, how shall I put it, conduct on the part of the Minister before we move on to whether or not he's responsible for it. That is my difficulty, Honorable Chair.
So, Council, you are not saying that the questions are irrelevant. They are germane to the grounds stated in the motion, are they not?
I have not said that they are not. What I'm
Okay.
saying that there are two questions rolled into one.
Into one?
Yes.
Okay,
we
so
ought to
Honorable
separate the questions for
Ablakwa,
us.
are you willing to decouple your questions?
Has there been reckless borrowing under your watch as finance minister?
Co-chairman, no, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Can we know the debt situation you met and what it is now?
Mr. Chairman, we met 123 billion Ghana cedis, and we are now at 450 billion Ghana cedis, about.
Respectfully, how will you describe this accumulation of debt?
I think the question of defining the debt is important. How has it been used and how was it accumulated? It's key to that. And what has been the benefits thus far to the Republic? And essentially, Mr. Chairman, so when we even begin to look, for starters, at what we assumed on the energy-related issues, we begin to look at what we had to do for the banking transaction. You then begin to realize that there are these huge areas that we have had to spend money on. And then given the interest component of these facilities, that leads to an accumulation. Mr. Chairman, you add the foreign exchange impact on our debt, and you begin to understand where the growth element is. Then you look at what we have done with these resources between defense, education, health sector, COVID, etc. And I think there has to begin to be some understanding of what it is this has been used for. The question then becomes the intervention, when the intervention occurred with regard to the pandemic, and how that then escalated the impact of the debt with regards to inflation and therefore interest paid going forward. So yes, we have accumulated considerable amount of debt. We are very clear on how that was used, and therefore, do we have at this juncture the way in which global crises have to pull back? Yes, we do. And that is what we are looking to do to bring this down to a 55% landing point within the next 5 years or so. So there has been a debt build-up, that's for sure. What were the uses of it? I think if we see the number of interchanges we have, the interventions that we have done with regards to social services, the real sector interventions such as planting for foods, industrial buildings 1D, 1F, and we'll begin to realize that these have been used in a way in which it gave us the buffer to be able to go through our COVID period much stronger than other people have. Do we need to step back and determine how all these projects have been working and create further efficiencies? Yes, we do. But have we benefited from this partly also because of the level of efficiency of GRA, where we, Mr. Chairman, are now about 13-14% of revenue to GDP. Intention to move it to 18-20%, and that will then help us with regards to how we manage our fiscals going forward.
I hold in my hands the 2017 budget you presented to this August House on behalf of His Excellency the President on the 2nd of March 2017. Paragraph 143, inheriting a debt of 120 billion Ghana cedis, you promise that there will be more macroeconomic stability and that you will ensure fiscal discipline, monetary discipline, and financial stability, and lead us away from what you described as an undesirable situation. Paragraph 143 of the 2017 budget.
Thank you very much, co-chairs and honorable Member of Parliament. I guess the question or the reality is that, yes, we took over this economy in 2017 with some very strong headwinds, as we all experienced, and that led to the phenomenal victory that brought President Akufo-Addo into power in 2017. I'm not sure I would be the one to educate anyone here that between 2017, 2018, and 2019, we have one of the strongest economies, and we were actually touted as one of the fastest growing areas, and there was a new lift in people's demeanor and a new return of what Ghana represents as a black star. I'm not sure anybody will question that. That then gave us the buffers to be able to support the interventions that we did in 2020 to be able to survive and thrive, in a sense, during COVID and after. So I think the facts are clear. Our growth was about an average of 7% during that period, and inflation was down. Really some halcyon days were emerging in which there was confidence in the Ghanaian.
I'm anxious about economy of time, so about 7 more people are around, colleagues are around, ready to. So how many more? One more, the last one?
I'll do 4 more.
Come on, let's compromise. 2. No, 2. I'll give you 2. I'll take 2 away, you have 2. Do the 2, and then we take the 2.
Okay, so let's no. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm really passionate about our precarious debt situation. If we are not careful, our generation is leaving behind debt. We are bequeathing debt to our children and our children unborn. I don't believe that that is the kind of country we inherited. So everybody is worried about our debt overhang. And the Honorable Minister must be worried. I have been reading your book, very interesting book, Leadership, Entrepreneurship and Values.
Whose book?
Authored by the Honorable Ofori-Atta.
Edition, first or second edition?
This was celebrating 20 years of Data Bank. And very, very revealing thoughts. He says at page 63, and I quote, "I also feel deep in my heart that Ghana has a destiny with greatness, and that our lot is not one of squalor, disempowerment, and lack of opportunity, but of peace, prosperity, and progress. But we must free ourselves from dependence We must free ourselves from dependence and unprogressive elements of our culture, government, poverty, donors, foreign investments, indeed from all dependencies, unquote. So this is what you write in your book. It's inspiring a lot of young people out there. But you get the opportunity to be finance minister. And this is our debt situation, debt overhang, over 100% of GDP. How do you reconcile this?
Very good question. And I think really it's a conversation we as a nation should be having. So we came in 2017 to Honorable MP to meet a very dispirited nation where the whole issue of the Black Star.
Honorable Minister, you are sure this nation was dispirited when you came in? No.
Mr. Co-Chairman,
I vehemently disagree with you. If the nation was dispirited, I'm sure it's because of the negative things you said whilst in opposition.
Mr. Minister, you can ignore those who answer your question.
Have you stricken them out of the proceedings?
Completely, yeah, struck out.
No, thank you very much. But truly, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get into this discussion because it's important. I mean, this week, co-chair has been, I guess in my mind, one of the darkest weeks since 2017. And that's because, I'm due for a censure. And then on Tuesday, Professor Dubois' son was also entrapped with something. And you see a gentleman whose father is responsible for our being here because he broke the culture of silence. And that then resulted in the Fourth Republic that we are all enjoying.
Well, Mr. Chairman, point of order. Is that opinion or because it's not fact? There was a referendum, all of us voted in April 1992 to have the Fourth Republican dispensation, to give all of these democratic credentials that we all should share in it to one person. I think it's really beginning to border on an absurdity.
Time, I keep saying economy of time. It's getting to about 5 o'clock already. So some of the comments we can ignore some of them and move on. So stick to but the other part of it, the culture of silence. I think we are aware about what happened. Some culture of silence broke in from Dubois. He did this and this and that. Minister, yes, we can. Can we make some progress without? Well, we know who is responsible for what happened earlier on, before something else happened, before the culture of silence, before it was broken. It's the elephant in the room. The elephant which has got a name but can't be spoken of. Minister, can we make some progress, please?
Thank you very much, and thank you.
Chairman, we also know what happened on 24 February 1966. So, yeah, we can go into our history lessons.
We got to your point. 5 o'clock. We need to be going. Look at it. We've been sitting from whatever. Let's get going. Not 30, whatever. Minister, if you can have any, can you rephrase your answers? Do you have any answers? Your last question, I imagine. Yeah.
No, I think the Honorable MP was talking, in a sense, that you spoke about peace, prosperity, and progress, and dependence, and therefore getting independent. And this is where we are. You know, the issue of building a prosperous society has to be linked with empowerment of people for social mobility. So education cannot be compromised. Because all of us here from the various villages we come from, it's really the power of education that has brought us how far we have come. And so then that was a vision of Akufo-Addo. How do we rebuild this confidence in our people, educate them? And it's going to cost you to be able to do that. You know, for whatever it may be in the trajectory of economic development, there'll be moments like this. How we pick ourselves up as a nation and have the appropriate resources then to go on is what we have to figure out. And I dare say that at this time of where we are and the type of plans that we are putting together to recapture and go back to what we were able to achieve 2017 to 2020 is evident to us. And that really is a reason for why we had to go back to the fund program to recalibrate, to find other ways of investing, reduce the debt burden over that period, and then move on as a people. So yes, I still believe in the issue of breaking from this dependency. I think it was very clear from the President's statement as to the issue of an export-driven replacement of imports that we can have, and therefore putting together resources for that. We had, Mr. Chairman, great difficulty as we tried to convince people of the need of the development bank, because we needed long-term capital and we needed term capital that was also relatively inexpensive. We fought hard to get it, and today, amongst the banking infrastructure, is now the $750 million institution, which is then going to help us to push the issue of the real sector and industrialization. So yes, Mr. MP, there will be periods of downturn, but I think we've put structures in place to recapture and to move forward.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my last but one question.
No, I mean, your very last question.
No, you gave me three.
You three. You've done
yes,
two already.
No, I've done one.
Help me out.
No, I did one.
Were you counting?
Yeah, I did one. There was just a back and forth. I did one.
You should have the
Chair, they are pretty straightforward questions. Pretty straightforward questions.
Level one.
No, level two.
So it's the last one.
No, two. No, two.
All right, get on with this. I mean, very short two questions.
Yes, very short. I'll keep it short. Honorable Minister, you just talked about the fund program. You were very vehement that you don't believe in the IMF. We are not going to the IMF. Why should you be leading the negotiations? Many people have said that once you don't believe in it, you should not be leading it. That's a matter of principle.
I really wouldn't know how to answer you on that one. The question really for us at this juncture is whether one has the competence to be able to do that, and whether one has the relationships, the partnerships, and understanding of our economy to be able to move forward with that. And these are critical and very fragile moments in the history of the country. I think the issue of not going back to the fund, given what you just read from my book, should really be symptomatic of who I am. Now, we came believing in President Akufo-Addo's vision of a Ghana beyond aid, and then fought very hard until this incidence of the pandemic that came. Did I still believe in the Ghanaian capacity to be able to haul ourselves out of it? Yes, I did, and therefore felt that we could find our way through. Unfortunately, co-chairs, we had a lacuna in Parliament, which then unraveled and led to a certain slide. Maybe it might have gotten there, but certainly it's accelerated beyond conditions. And I think one of the great writers in Norway, Ibsen, the strongest man that stands alone. So at that point in time, with 30 million people, our revenue measures had not been passed. we were being downgraded, ability to go to the capital markets was in jeopardy. You had to find resources to come. It's not about my person, it's about where does a nation go. And therefore you need to be able to reverse. Now the issue of whether someone who used to be chairman of the Development Committee of the World Bank has the capacity and relationships to then go forward once one believed in something, I believe that we do. Am I committed to it? Yes. That's why we are here. Is there anywhere to go to? No, there's nowhere to go to. This is our country, and we just need to fight for it. But I can assure you that currently where we are going and the pronouncements by the managing director of the IMF, I think it leaves nobody in doubt that there's trust in the leadership of the Ministry of Finance, and she's not shy to say it on the global scale.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my final question will be from the verbatim report, page 27. The Honorable Haruna Idrisu providing evidence. He tendered in an Auditor General's report, that is a copy of which I have here, the Auditor General's report on general government for the year ended 31st December 2021. A discrepancy of our oil revenues of 1.3 billion cedis. The auditors say your ministry is insisting that you only received ABFA of 2,061,122,607. But the Controller and Accountant General is also insisting that you rather receive 3,368,095,788. So the Auditor General says this is a 1.3 billion discrepancy. And he writes, and I quote, "In view of the above, we could not vouch for the accuracy and completeness of the revenue figures stated in the financial statement." This is at page 11 of the Auditor General's report. How do you respond to that? It is in evidence. The Honorable Haruna Idrisu presented it at page 27.
Yeah, thank you very much, co-chairs and Honorable MP. I think, you know, I don't know, Honorable MP, maybe it's 12 years in the House. You have seen the reversals that occur from year to year as reconciliations and identifications are done. And truly, I don't expect anything different than for us to be sitting here next year having fully reconciled it. And therefore, the responses, how quickly our officials respond to Accountant General. There have been some phenomenal reversals that we thought money had been stolen, but maybe it hasn't been booked, etc. So I'm sure our ministry is pursuing it to reconcile.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Does any member have questions? Okay. Honorable Kwame, you don't have any question?
Mr. Chairman, not now.
Very well.
When I have some questions, I'll draw your attention.
Very well. Honorable Bernard, I'm here for.
No, we won't come back to you. Let's be fair.
Oh, no. I just...
So if you have questions, let's
Mr. Chairman, I thought the procedure was that if my colleague on this side speaks, we have to
one here,
shift
one
to the
here.
other. Yes.
You want to ask questions?
That's what
Do you want to ask questions?
I'm not sure now.
Yes. So I was looking for a member of your side to take the floor, but Honorable Bernard are here for you can, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask the Minister of Finance some few questions. I refer to the Minister's response in paragraph 50 at page 20 and to ask what was the exchange rate in terms of cedi to a dollar in 2017, and what is the exchange rate now in the year 2022?
No, this is just a matter of fact. I'm sure the minister knows what the exchange rate was. No, it's, yes. Were you referring to paragraph 50 of the minister's statement?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think it was about 4.2, and today, the Bank of Ghana, it's so difficult to find CDs, I'm not sure what the rate is, to find dollars. Yeah, but I think it may be about 14 CDs now. But we can verify what the Bank of Ghana rate is.
Would you agree that by this exchange rate, the cedi has crashed? And it has become the worst performing currency in the whole world, as alleged by the proponent of the motion.
Yeah, there has been a precipitous fall, no question about it. And that is why we are working with the fund to bring back confidence and to stabilize it. But, you know, the issue of where the cedi is in terms of what has happened globally, what we have done to it ourselves through speculation, and also our inability to come into the first quarter of the Eurobond proceeds that we usually do, you know, all have, in a sense, conspired to bring what you may call the perfect storm. The question then is, given the strong fundamentals I believe we have, because if you look at growth in the first and second quarters, clearly over 3% in each of those quarters. Now that's a certain resilience. The question is, how do we build back on those? And that's what we have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Well, thank you, Honorable Minister, for your answer. And I again refer to paragraph 59 at page 23 of your response to the committee, and to ask you, in 2016, what was the rate of inflation? And in 2022, what is the rate of inflation?
Thank you.
Wait a minute, Minister. Let's check this. Page 23. Okay, paragraph 1. Okay.
Now, where is it? Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chairs. Very insightful question. At the same time, I remember us reading a book in graduate school which said, this was our statistics class, which said, how do you lie with statistics? And so here, in 2016, it is 15.4, in 2017, 11.8, in 2018, 9.4, 2019, 7.9, 2020, 10.4, COVID, 2021, 12.6, and currently 40.4, I believe. So it will be very easy, Honorable Member, to say, well, I was 15.4 and you are now 40. Judgment close. But judgment doesn't close there. In 2016, I don't know that you had COVID. I don't know that anybody ever dreamt that the euro would be less than the dollar. I don't know that the UK pound was less than $1. So how do we lie with statistics?
Thank you, Honorable Minister. In your answer to a question posed by Honorable Okujato Ablakwa, you said you have inherited Ghana's debt of 123 billion. But he quoted from the 2017 budget statement, read in March, which quoted a figure of 120 billion. Now, between the budget that you have presented and the statement made to this particular committee, which figure is correct? Is it 123 billion or is it 120 billion?
Co-chairs and Honorable MP, there truly are many ways to look at that, i.e., what exchange rate was used at that time, etc., etc. But truly, you know, at the current level of about 400 billion, and so it's an important focus for the now. The issue there, as I mentioned, could be exchange rate definitions or whatever, but I can confirm with our numbers what we have put in as a fixed number for this.
You need the budget to confirm to the committee the actual number, whether it is 120 or 123 billion?
Yes.
Sorry?
Mr. MP, yes, I would like to do that.
Very well. Honorable Minister, you said the total debt of Ghana as we speak is about 450 billion. Is that correct?
Mr. Co-Chair and Honorable MP, I mean, I think we have been talking about these extraordinary economic periods in where we are. In other words, the issue of foreign exchange impact, etc., something that we are talking about, and therefore honorable members think is critical, and therefore is worth essential. In that same vein, honorable MP, this is what is affecting our macro statistics literally on a daily basis. And therefore, we can confirm at a certain point in time or not. And we'll look to give you the end date amount, you know, at the end of today as we check in with the Bank of Ghana.
Honorable Minister, will I be right in stating to this committee that during your tenure of office, in 6 years, an amount of 330 billion was added to Ghana's debt stock?
Wait, Mr. Minister, you don't need to trouble yourself. This question has been answered about 4 times, colleague. He said 450, we had about 120 something, And then we moved over from there to 450. This is straight mathematics. You subtracted the 123 from the 450 and you got in this new figure. Do we have to have that detainer?
So what is wrong if the minister said I am right in doing my calculation or you are wrong in doing your calculation?
You got a few more questions. Ask your questions. Let's make some progress, please.
Honorable KT Amon, with all due respect, it's possible that he's laying the foundation for, a subsequent.
So let him state that. So let him state that you have added this, and then let me add the question. We are quite, Sami, you are nodding your assent. That's the point, isn't it? Sorry.
The rules were set down that we will ask questions for clarity. It seems to me that what an honorable member is doing now is direct cross-examination. Yes, it is cross-examination, and I don't know if it's allowed or other people may be allowed to do re-examination.
We will allow him to deduct the 120 from the 450. Yes. The balance is 3 something. Ask your question on basis of your balance. Let's go. 327. Just move on from there.
Honourable Minister, what was Ghana's debt to GDP ratio in 2016, and in 2022, what is Ghana's debt to GDP ratio?
Thank you very much. And really, Mr. Co-Chair, this is where we get twisted up in these statistics. So in 2016, we were at about 56% of debt to GDP. As we speak, it is 76% of debt to GDP. I think what we have gotten all wrong is that we are doing our debt sustainability analysis, which then gets into general government analysis, which means you add Cocoa Board, you add SOEs, you add all of those. And that then becomes, this 104, 105 that one of your colleagues have talked about, because you are then going to build up towards a landing zone of 55%, and you need to have all of the debts that you can centralize. So that's where it is that. But for example, co-chairs, I mean, if I were to say that in 2009, we had a debt level of 9 billion cedis. And then in 2016, we had a debt level of 123 billion. That, co-chairs, is 1,300% over the 8 years. So, if you say that we have 122, 123 in 2016, and we have, let's say, 450 now, that's a debt level of 360%. Am I going to be brandishing a flag around saying, oh, I have only 360% and you have 1,300%? So we need to be careful. The size of the economy that has expanded, but truly we also then have to be clear on a workout. But it allows for that type of empathy and realization of where the Republic has to go for us to move in the same direction.
Do you have any more questions?
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairs. Honorable Co-Chairs, one issue raised by the proponent of the motion is that Ghana's debt is unsustainable. What do you say to it?
I think really, I mean, that's an obvious reason why we are going to the fund. recalibrate. And essentially, the fund program is what you call, this tripod that we have to deal with. What do you do on your macro level of reforms and restructuring that you have to? How do you then look at your debt profile, and therefore what operations you have to do? And then you have the financing gap that you have to deal with. So the issue then becomes, once you understand your macro fiscals, what revenue you need, what expenditures to cut down, what reforms have to come in place, and then you look at your debt operations. Debt operations for Ghana, we have our domestic debt, we do have our bilaterals, and then we have our bond investors. This is the reason for all this talk about haircuts, where we have agreed that because we cannot go to the international capital markets to raise funds in the next 2-3 years, there's no way we can compromise the robustness of the domestic financial infrastructure. And so we are looking to protect our banks, our individuals, investors, so that we have a strong ecosystem here. Then we'll talk of our bilaterals to see whether we get into the common framework or not, and how to negotiate to make sure that we bring that down. And then talk of our investors, where you then determine what type of debt operation to do. So that then moves us into what you call a landing zone of about 55% debt to GDP ratio, which is where we want to go in 5 years. And at that same time, also be able to have a debt service ratio to revenue of about 18%. So you have those border points, and then you do your restructuring to meet that. There'll be a financing gap, and this is where, what is it that you're able to negotiate with the fund? What do you do with the World Bank? What other potential facilities that you can get access to, so that we get there? So there's no question about where we are of our debt profile and what we have to do to it, and how we should all get together to make sure that we get through this difficult time.
Thank you, Minister Co-Chair. It's been the case that Ghana is not the only country affected by COVID-19 pandemic and the world economic adverse effects. However, Ghana's inflation is about 40.4. The exchange rate is almost 15 cedis. Ghana's debt is now about 450 billion. And all these are attributed to your recklessness, incompetence, and mismanagement of the economy. What will you say to this?
Absolutely not. And truly, I mean, it's really demurring to hear these descriptions when we also know that we are striving hard to keep the lights on. We are striving hard for people to eat. We are striving hard for schools to be open. We are striving hard to keep our health systems operational. And we also know what is happening around us in this region. Will these things befall a nation in these very strange times? They will. How do we get back together to speak a common language to hold us back? Is where we are. And I think we are really on a slippery path when we do not recognize this and therefore have a vote of censure of this nature. It's something that we can objectively assess and find a way as a country to work towards in unity. So this is an important exercise that we are doing, but we also have an important exercise in our discussions of the fund. We have an important exercise in our budget that has to be brought to the House. We have an important exercise to halt the decline of the cedi. We have an important exercise to ensure that we maintain the supply of fuel at the very least. And so we need to make certain really hardcore decisions about what is most critical in the short term, medium, and long term. So we do appreciate this democratic exercise that we are, but when it turns out that even with the censure, 3, 4, or 2 of the grounds, have had to be dropped, it makes you cry in your inside, wondering where we are going as a nation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the last question. The last question.
Yes, Honorable Minister, it is not the case that we have dropped 2 of the grounds. It is the case that in the case of 1, we didn't want to call you to answer because sufficient evidence has been adduced before the committee. Secondly, on the question of conflict of interest, your lawyer raised a preliminary objection of constitutionality and cited cases which I mentioned in the morning. And we have said that we have a ruling that will be incorporated into our report to plenary for purposes of the debate. So let not the impression be given that the committee has dropped 2 grounds against you. We haven't. They will be set out in our report for plenary, in accordance with the.
Let there be clarification on this matter. I don't understand this. No, I don't understand this. Wait, Mr. Chairman. Wait a minute, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't understand. No. Please, colleagues. Now there must be sanity in this. There must be clear sanity in this. No, there's no question of interpretation here. We took a decision among ourselves that, number 1, because of the constitutional issue raised, because of the Supreme Court decision, which was on the back of the Shrag decision, we didn't feel that it was appropriate for him to answer allegation number 1, struck out as far as we are concerned. Let me make my point. We will report, of course, we'll report to the plenary that we struck it out because of A, B, C, D. This is it. Number 2, Mr. Chairman, then number 2, there was this matter relating to the billions, millions of 100 million of Mr. Co-Chairman. Then there was this second matter relating to the 100 million offshore whatever. There was that allegation. We called it was allegation. I don't quite get it. There's an allegation that this man is guilty of A, B, C, D, D. So bring him for motion of censure. We are here dealing with the motion on the basis of those allegations, and we keep on what is applying semantics, and it is ground. It is that it's an allegation that he has to answer to. That there has been $100 million which has been paid into some offshore account. We decided to follow it up with some other state institutions called PIAC.
Honorable members,
could you bear with us, please?
Yes.
Yeah. We called Shrag. Forgive me. We called PIAC. PIAC came and then confirmed that as far as they were concerned, they weren't sure that the finance minister knew anything about this money. We wanted to be double sure. We called GMPC, which was immediately at the center of it. GMPC came and made a categorical statement that this deposit you're talking about has absolutely nothing to do with the finance minister. Our oil, our debt, we sold the oil, we were paid the money. We instructed the buyers of our oil to pay the money into a specific account. The question specifically was put to them, does the finance minister know anything about it? They said emphatically, no, we struck that one out. We're going to make Well, Mr. Co-Chairman, we said that, Mr. Minister, don't bother, don't deal with this because of the fact that I've just indicated to you.
Yes.
We are going to report to the plenary that we did not allow him to answer this because of what we said.
Right.
What is
it has been struck out?
No, come on, Mr. Well, all right, I accept it. He accepts that he's not dealing with them. We aren't dealing with them. We'll report the way I've indicated to the plenary. If by that we haven't struck that out, that's fine. We'll take it from there. Yes, who else? Do you have any more questions? I think you are done with your questions.
No, huh? With one.
Yeah, let's hear your one question.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. That's what I like.
And say double too much. That'll be nice.
Thank you thank you very, very much.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes. They are talking about GMPC. The chair and the co-chair, they mentioned categorically GMPC was here. And then the committee, they made categorical statement. Among the statements was that an amount of $164 million was given to GMPC by the Finance Ministry as a loan without parliamentary approval.
Wait a minute. I thought we had some agreement among ourselves on this matter. It looks like it's no holding. All right, we'll put it on record so we decide on what to do among ourselves. If we have to vote on that, we would. We had. He said it wasn't an agreement. There was some discussion.
No agreement.
Can you kindly listen to me? Can you kindly listen to me? In course of the discussions yesterday in relation to the 100 million, a matter came up in relation to the 100 million. Our decision is that because, well, he said we didn't strike out, but we said that we struck it out and that the minister wasn't going to deal with it. Matters relating to that 100 million will not be allowed to be debated here. So the 160 issue he's raising isn't in evidence. It's not been brought into evidence by the proponents. It wasn't brought into evidence by proponents. It was when the GMPC people came, PR GMPC and others came, that this matter came up. We have taken out the matter of the 100 million. It doesn't arise. We said we weren't discussing it. So if it is decided that, or it is thought that it has to be brought on this table, we among ourselves have to decide and then make a response by way of.
Yes, Mr. Co-Chair, with all due respect, the grounds that the committee has agreed upon includes recklessness, incompetence, mismanagement of the economy. And GMPC was before the committee to make a categorical statement that the Finance Ministry gave a loan of $164 million.
Now wait a minute.
Without approval of Parliament.
Co-Chairman is speaking, please. Yeah, let's respect the chair. No. The lawyers for the Finance Minister made consistent application for the committee to supply them with the evidential basis for what some of us call allegations and other people call grounds. Yes. In the end, the evidential basis given them to ground the application respectively did not include this particular one. It is when we are not giving them that evidence. It is when GMPC came, wait a minute, GMPC came, PR came, that this 164 million issue came up. Respectfully, if this committee had subsequently agreed that the GMPC matter in respect of the 110 million, the PIAC matter in respect of this was going to be taken up by us, then we investigate the 164 further. It just arose tangentially. Colleagues, we said, wait a minute, no, we are going to debate it, please. Colleagues, the 8 of us will discuss this matter and bring it to an end.
Official communication from this committee yesterday.
I'm aware. We wrote a letter.
Honorable Co-Chair, Honorable Co-Chair, the entire country is listening to us.
Council. We have.
But to use our staff.
Yes, Honorable Co-Chair, we wish to submit that this is a committee of record. And we received a letter yesterday evening, and it reads, I quote, "The committee wish to bring to the attention of the Honorable Minister that the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation and the Public Interest and Accountability Committee attended upon the committee and gave evidence in respect of ground 3 contained in the motion of censure. The committee found the evidence from the two institutions satisfactory, and accordingly, the Honorable Minister, and the emphasis here is mine, is not required to lead evidence in respect of the said ground." Now, we are observing that
Council, with respect, we wouldn't want you to belabor the point. We have agreed. So among our committee, because, this is exactly, wait a minute. This is exactly the point that I've made. So I don't think we should trouble Council to belabor the point. Let us decide among ourselves what we want to do. Thank you very much, Council.
Council. Yes, Debbie, it's important. Learned Council, the letter refers to ground 3, right? And ground 3 says illegal payment of oil revenues into an offshore account. The question being asked is in respect of the lending of monies to GMPC without parliamentary approval. It is not about payment into offshore account. It's a different kettle of fish altogether. There are two different things altogether. And that can qualify under fiscal recklessness. You see?
Yes. Honorable Co-Chair, this is a process prior to censure. The statutory remit of the censure process is spelled out in the law. The law.
Fiscal Responsibility Act.
The Fiscal Responsibility Act.
Yes.
That's one particular leg of it. And the other leg is the general content of the motion. And where the Honorable MP or the Honorable Member is going is outside the remit
Can I ask you, let me ask this question.
Yes.
Direct your mind to Article 181 of the Constitution.
181
of the Constitution.
Relates to loans and international transactions.
Very well.
Right.
That includes domestic loans, right?
No.
Yes, it includes domestic loans.
It doesn't include domestic loans.
It does include domestic loans.
Yes.
Wait, bear with that.
Yes.
We will take our decision. Calm down, colleagues. Calm down, colleagues. We will take our decision among ourselves, the 8 on this matter. Council is belaboring the point that the chairman have already made, so we won't trouble you any further. Let's discuss this and then we'll move forward from there. He wants to do what? What does Mesa want to do on this? No.
Okay. So the committee is going to take a vote on the matter of whether or not the question put to the minister should be answered. Pardon? Why?
He wants to reframe. Well, okay, if he wants to reframe without a reference to the 164, you are welcome to do that.
Just reframe. You see, Mr. Co-Chair, can I come in?
Yes, sure.
Am I permitted to come in now?
Let's hear you.
Yes, my issue is on grounds of fairness. When GMPC
fairness to whom?
Was fairness to the finance minister.
Yeah, let's hear you.
When GMPC was here,
yes,
in a full glare of the media, this categorical statement was made. If it is the decision of the House that though the Constitution says that in debating a motion for censure, the minister must be heard, and this in his defense, and this categorical statement
that is
which has gone into the mind of the public,
no, colleague,
the minister must not be heard on me.
It's not an allegation against the minister. Listen, the minister has got he had 7 allegations, 2 are gone. He's got 5 solid allegations to respond to. The 164 isn't part of the allegations. It won't go into our proceedings.
Well, it's gone into the proceedings.
Have you withdrawn it? No, we'll strike it out. You haven't withdrawn. All right. Yeah, so we'll take the decision.
Okay.
Move your motion.
I think we've decided that we are not going to vote.
So yes, it's gone.
We've decided we are not going to vote.
So the matter is gone.
Yes.
The matter is gone. All right. So
yes.
Clerk, the matter is settled. We are not voting on it. It's expunged. All right. Do you have any more questions? Good. Thank you very much.
Coach, I'm done.
Disallowed the question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You've disallowed the question. Not that it be expunged. The record must show that this question was allowed.
No. Well, I don't care. Either way, yes. If it is question allowed and then speaker chairman, question allowed and chairman disallowed it. Fine. Question expunged. Either way, Koyo and Koko, I was told that they are all from off madam. So, well, they are twins of the same. It's gone. Let's be fair. You're talking about question of fairness, but this is an issue that the man specifically has been told. Don't come and debate this. And then we say that in the name of fairness, you should deal with it. Last question. Who's got questions?
Just one point.
But let's refer to our colleague there. Did you finish your questioning?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, go on.
I said you had no questions, so we gave that opportunity to Honorable.
So, Mr. Chairman, I can't change my mind.
You can always change your mind, but at least notify the chairman that you have changed your mind.
And I was granted audience to.
Okay, please go ahead.
Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. I really wasn't going to ask a question, but I think that the point has been made where some comparisons have been tabled with respect to the performance of some neighbors within our
economic environment. Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa made references to Togo and Burkina Faso and La Côte d'Ivoire. Mr. Finance Minister, I want to find out from you whether you know amongst any of these countries that are listed where their parliament approved their revenue and expenditure budget, gave them authorization to spend, and declined to pass a revenue measure to fund their budget. Any within the countries that have been mentioned. Thank you.
Which of the allegations are you standing upon? The so-called allegations. Which of them are you standing upon? Yes, I mean,
I will. Fiscal recklessness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you very much, co-chairs, and thank you very much, Honorable. I think really you put your finger on it when you begin to look at the issue of comparisons without understanding the framework in which these countries operate. It really it's not a good way to do it, to say the least. So no, I don't know of any country where Parliament did not fulfill its obligation by year end as it was supposed to. 5 months in which revenue measures were not passed, and the expectation that the country will still run in a way in which we won't destabilize the economy. And that really has had a serious impact on where we are today.
Thank you, Mr. Finance Minister. That'll be all for now.
Honorable Ajiman Rawlings.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My first question to the Minister is, he mentioned that the debt of this country was 123 billion cedis when he assumed his position as Minister, and currently is 450 billion cedis. How much of what is accumulated as a difference was pre-2020?
You know, I did mention that I'll furnish you the full details later, but maybe if I could understand the background of where you want to go, so I may be able to help with some anecdotal responses to that.
Thank you. The Minister mentioned that most of what we're seeing is as a result of what happened post-2020. So what I'm trying to ascertain is what portion of this can we attribute to pre-2020, the debt that Ghana currently has?
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, I don't have those specific debt figures with me right now.
Yes, thank you. My second question is regarding the rating of Ghana's economy, using two specific agencies, Fitch and the S&P. In 2017, the Minister did mention on one or two occasions the fact that Fitch had and S&P had rated us at a B, and then subsequently in 2022 now, Fitch is rating us at a CCC and S&P at a CCC+. The Minister, in his response, did mention that now he and some of his contemporaries are looking at changing the criteria. Was it okay in 2017 with regards to their rating, and what has changed in 2020 with regards to the criteria that they use to grade Ghana?
Thank you very much indeed for that question. I think really, Honorable Co-Chairs, the issue of lack of equity and justice in the international economic architecture should not be new to anybody in this environment. And therefore, when issues like this occur and the responses of these institutions are a lot more draconian than would have happened to other regions, areas, etc., of course it is something to work around. Are we saying that the past injustices, because things were relatively good, we should allow them to continue? It's a definite no. And Africa must continue to fight to change the equilibrium of things. And that is what we are leading to. Unless we are saying that, the structure of the global architecture is fine and therefore, let it be. And because maybe at some point you got a good rapport with them and therefore that then affects how the future is. I suspect for Africa, we need to begin to relook at those issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just to set the record straight, I'm in no way saying that any injustice against Africa is acceptable. I was only trying to establish what changed in terms of the acceptability of a rating that was a B to what it is now, and what has informed the decision to now move away from accepting these as the criteria. But the response is well noted. My next question is just based on the deficit financing of the Bank of Ghana for Government of Ghana from 2018 until now. Has there been any deficit financings?
Co-Chair, Honorable MP, yes, I think we did come to Parliament during the COVID period to seek maybe a 10 billion asset financing, which has occurred. I know the bank has subsequently reported about 20 or 21 billion more recently as to its kind of overdraft in support of the shortfalls in our auction, etc. So yes, these are economic crises, these are difficult times, and the lights have to be kept on, workers have to be paid, and food has to be put on the average Ghanaian person's table, and so things may have to be done differently.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairs. Just as a follow-up question to the figures the Finance Minister just mentioned, is the Finance Minister aware that both of these figures are in excess of the 5% that is permitted with regards to deficit financing by the Bank of Ghana?
Very much so. And I think we were aware of that when in 2020, because of the nature of the situation, the House voted for that. I think the real challenge for us and the integrity of approach to our economy in these very difficult times is really to understand our resources and how we look at ways in which in this transition period we use our best efforts to make sure that we get through that period. Is that going to demand a different approach sometimes? Certain maneuverability, and that will be required. I dare say we will have to.
Thank you very much. With the Honourable Minister mentioned the 10 billion that was approved by Parliament. That was in 2020. But on either side of that, in 2019, 2021, and 2022, the actual deficit financing by the Bank of Ghana the percentage goes above the 5%. Is the minister aware of this, and has it been brought to Parliament?
In terms of, I think the number that we talk about, I think it's quite public, and whether it comes to Parliament or not will be an issue that the central bank will have to work out. 2020.
Honourable Minister, are you suggesting that the central bank will have to bring it to Parliament? Is that a suggestion?
I mean, I don't know what her suggestion is. That I have to bring it to Parliament.
You are the minister overseeing the financial sector, and I think Bank of Ghana, is under your authority when it comes to. I mean, I'm not talking about the independence. No, the Bank of Ghana is independent. But the governor cannot appear before Parliament, and usually they come through the Minister of Finance. That's the point that I'm making.
I see. Yeah. I mean, certainly, I know that the House Finance Committee do meet with the Bank of Ghana when they choose to, and so right. So yeah, I'm sure that there's a way in which they can.
So I'm told by the Honourable Majority Leader that the Governor of the Bank of Ghana actually meets the committee of the whole, and does not come through the Minister of Finance. So I need to make that correction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very well. Yes. Very well.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honourable Co-Chairs. I have another question just came to my attention in the response of the Minister when he mentioned that, and I'll quote, "I feel the stress of running a business." I was just wondering whether this was in reference to any private businesses that the Minister owns, or whether it's in his capacity as a Minister.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, as Minister for Finance, the issue of how businesses will be able to run, will have access to loans, how to manage interest rates, and how really, as a country, we should be, in a sense, diminishing the public sector for private sector to be the stronger in terms of job creations, etc., and wealth creation. So yes, in the work that I do, I need to ensure the robustness and continuing strengthening of the business community. But I mean, I think the fact of the matter is that I also grew a business since I came back to this country some 30 years ago. And the fact of the matter is that, yes, we started a company called DataBank somewhere in 1990. And believe it or not, this was in one room in a cousin's construction company in Kantamanto. So imagine coming from Wall Street with some partners, Ghanaian partners, Gajapo, Afede, and saying that we are going to start an investment banking firm and work on the stock exchange from Kantamanto. But that's where we started. And it has been 30 years hence in which we really grew the whole issue of capital markets and therefore understood from the beginning what it took to build a business in Ghana. I believe we borrowed some $25,000 at that time, took taxis, ran around Kantamanto, and gradually built up DataBank to where it is today, managing over $1 billion equivalent. So yes, we have grown through a period of 30 years in which we have built a company from scratch. So as I sit in my office, I do understand the pains of business. I do understand how to build a business from brick. I do understand how to work.
Minister, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but in Parliament we do have quite a few committees. So one of them is a committee that oversees those who, what do we call it, members Office of Profit, and you are not here in that capacity, so don't worry about those things. Don't worry at all. So the question was, if I understood her, when you said that it was a headache running a business, I actually thought that running corporate Ghana was such a business that is giving everybody a headache. I thought that really was the answer. But I assume that's what you are arriving at. So we thank you for that answer. Yes.
The chairman answering for the...
chairman commenting on the answer given by the minister. Yes, Doctor, you're done. You're done with your questions, aren't you?
He's only taking off. No, Co-Chair, I'm kindly inviting you to intervene. The attempt to rephrase... No, just intervene. Because this is a House of Records, and you have reframed and recouched and totally, recreated,
cannibalized
and cannibalized and vandalized the response we all had.
She accepts my rephrasing of the question for her. So let's make some business. Go.
No, members don't accept it.
Well, members don't overrule chairman.
Just for the record, Chair, I don't accept your answer.
Right.
The answer the minister gave was his honest response, and I think I'm comfortable with that. Please, let's not rephrase what he said.
You got a sense of the committee, so get on with it. From the chair, so get on with it.
The record will reflect the answer that has been given by the minister.
Mr. Co-Chair, thank you. I am done.
And my final question.
All right, I was very well. Because it was very nice.
Co-Chair, my final question. Is the minister aware of the specifics regarding any monies owed it by other agencies and state-owned enterprises? Are there any companies, subsidiaries, statutory corporations, and all of those which owe the Ministry of Finance any money? And would the minister be willing to furnish the committee with the list?
Yeah, well, let's try it. Ministry of Finance being owed by, which is government effectively, other institutions of state or private enterprises or whatever, whole Ghana. The question is...
Chairman, you're looking for a bit more clarity.
Yeah, it will help. It will help. Yeah.
Okay. For example, does GNPC owe the Ministry of Finance any money?
Just GNPC. You want GNPC alone?
They're not all the
Mr. Co-Chair, I mean, it's yeah. Mr. Co-Chair, there's lots of, quite a number of SOEs and MMDAs that, I mean, technically owe the government, and that is through Ministry of Finance. I mean, to mean, some data dumping to get you that whole list. But that comes really when we talk about the debt sustainability analysis, which therefore the bank or the fund may be using 105%. It is an attempt to see how we can centralize all of those other institutions such as Cocoa Board, etc., into sort of general government accounting to be able to get there. So yes, I mean I think it's a matter of course. And as to the quantities and various things, we'll have to do some analysis for you.
You done?
Yes.
You want to...
Yes, Co-Chair. No, I just wanted to confirm that per the Minister's response, he will make this data available to the committee.
All the money is owed the state.
He said he will make
the committee.
It's part of the.
Let's see. Think about it. Let's see.
No, please. Minister, you can make that data available to the committee. It's simple.
No, it is all simple.
Your debt management division can make that available to us, can they?
No. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
The government of Ghana.
No, government of Ghana. But yes. What is the relevance of the debts of other institutions of the government of Ghana to do with?
Well, it all goes to the issue of economic mismanagement, which is one of the grounds.
Mismanagement.
Yeah, it's one of the grounds. It's one of the grounds, isn't it?
Minister.
No. We will do the analysis
Minister,
at the end of the day.
Take as long as it takes you to get that information and bring it to the committee.
No. Honorable Katie, that is not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. Yeah.
Any more? You have your question. Yes. Who is?
Honorable Kwame Imedu. You have questions?
Co-Chair, I have a difficulty. I need, since the majority leader is here, he may probably offer some superior guidance. It's on Order 202 of our standing orders.
Does it say?
Standing Order 200, sub 2. It provides that the chairman of a committee shall maintain order in the committee, deciding all questions of order.
And by parity of reasoning, he can also promote this unity among the committee.
A report of it, but increasingly it's not clear.
Overruled. Overruled. Okay.
Exactly what I expected.
Get on.
Mr. Chair and co-chairs, I can only say that I am privileged to have been a member of this committee and have listened to. I'm privileged to have listened to Finance Minister testify before this committee. I can only thank him. I don't have any question for him.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah.
Honorable Patrick Bowman.
Yeah.
No questions.
Okay.
Katie.
Yes, sure. Very short ones. It troubled you to confirm, Mr. Minister. My colleagues, one, I think the other one here, trouble you to confirm how much it was that you inherited by way of debt overhang when you assumed office, the finance minister of this republic, in January 2017. How much was the figure? My understanding was that you were specific. It was about 123. Is that it? No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, about 123 billion.
My question is, do you recall what the exchange rate of the cedi to the dollar was at the time?
Yeah, about 4.2.
Was what?
About 4.2.
So if you do the back of an envelope calculation, the 120 billion cedis in 123 billion cedis in 2017, when you inherited that debt, would amount to about what in dollars?
Technically, and that's the reason for mentioning how to lie of statistics when we're in graduate school. So you would say that in 2016, we had equivalent of maybe 29 or 30 billion dollars equivalent.
29 or 30 million dollars, billion, forgive me. So Gangantuan.
And if we assume our debt to be, sort of 430, 450 billion today, that then results in about $32 billion. So if you want to play with statistics, you say, gee, we've just done $3 billion. What's this happabaloo about? And that is the problem.
I see. You anticipated the way I was going to go about it. So in 2017, 120 billion, it was about $30 billion, and then 450 billion, still about
$32 billion.
You haven't done badly, have you? Not badly at all. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, do you have any? You have.
So you have, I mean, I think you have, technically, if we are going the same trajectory for 15 interchanges, for school feeding, for free SHS.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for a list of the good things in quotes that you have done with the money. Yes, Honorable Finance Minister, I have two questions for you. Can you confirm to the committee how much the financial sector cleanup costs? Financial sector cleanup. Can you confirm to the committee?
Mr. Co-Chair, I mean, I think the operating number that we've been using is around 25 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay. Yeah. Then my second question is in relation to the issue of fiscal recklessness. Would you agree with me that non-compliance with the statutes and regulations relating to the financial sector generally points to fiscal recklessness? Would you?
No, I'm
non-compliance.
I'm trying non-compliance of what?
With, say, the Public Financial Management Act and its regulations, as well as the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Non-compliance.
Well, I don't know what you're referencing, and I'm still trying to figure out the understanding of recklessness.
Okay. So the legal and regulatory framework for the management of the financial resources, the financial and fiscal resources of the state, are there for a reason. They are there to constrain, governmental action that results in losses to the state. Is that not correct?
I would imagine so.
Very well. And I'm saying that non-compliance is an indicator of fiscal recklessness.
Non-compliance by who? Of what?
Non-compliance by, let's say, a Minister of Finance, Minister of State. That is indicative of fiscal recklessness.
Well, I don't know because I haven't evinced it.
You haven't what?
I haven't seen it. I haven't evinced it.
Have you read the Auditor General report?
Certainly, I have.
Sorry, please. Have you read the? You do no, please. I gave you the opportunity. The Auditor General's report for 2021.
I have read some.
Or have you seen it? Have you seen the Auditor General's report?
My colleague would have to work it out. But has it been to Parliament? The 2021 has it been? It's been late. It's been late.
It's been late, but it's not been dealt with by. It's not been dealt with by the Public Accounts Committee.
It's put as the Public Accounts, not the Finance Committee.
Once it's not been dealt with by the Public Accounts Committee, you can't cite it here.
It's a published document, and it's been laid. Yes, once it's laid, it becomes a public document. So the fact that yes, it's not final, but that doesn't mean that I'm disbarred from asking the finance minister questions on it. Okay. Yeah. Let me take it from another angle. Honorable Finance Minister, you are very well aware of the decision of the Supreme Court in Kodo and Attorney General, are you not? On Kodo and Attorney General.
This is indeed a legal question. I was wondering if the Honorable Minister will be in a position to answer such a question.
I've inquired because of what it relates to. It's notorious, that case is notorious for what it relates to. So I was wondering whether we should give him a chance to answer whether he's aware it has been brought to the legal people's attention or it hasn't. We are happy to hear from him.
In fact, I personally wrote to the Minister of Finance and attached a copy of the judgment in Kodo and Attorney General.
Okay, so then what's the point of the question? Whether I read your letter?
No, not at all. The point of the question is about non-compliance, okay, non-compliance with the decision and the Constitution with respect to the 5%, total revenue, of Ghana. That is to be paid to the District Assembly's Common Fund.
Mr. Co-Chair, we are.
I thought you.
Honorable Finance Minister, are you aware of the decision of the Supreme Court in Kodo and Attorney General?
Yes, Mr. Co-Chair.
Very well. And you are aware that in that decision, the Supreme Court, ruled in relation to the definition of total revenues of Ghana. Are you not?
I am aware, sir.
And under the Constitution, and in terms of the decision in Kodo and Attorney General, you are supposed to pay the 5% as defined into the District Assembly Common Fund. Is that correct?
That's correct.
5% of the total revenues of Ghana.
That's correct, sir.
Not less than 5% of the total revenues of Ghana.
I see you are being helped by the people on our side.
No.
Thank you very much. Mr. Co-Chair, there are two distinct issues. There's the awareness when the judgment came, and we being clearly, we changed, therefore, the calculation of how we, ensure that the total revenue is calculated. And if you see the figures that we then commit to allocate, it is within that bracket. Now, whether because of financial constraint we are able to fulfill them is another issue. So whether you are talking about arrears or whether you are talking about compliance, that's a very different question. So I would like to know.
Well, in 2021, you did only 1.74%.
Yes, it does not mean that we did not comply.
That's non-compliance.
We were not able to meet the amount. We are running, Mr. Co-Chair, a budget deficit. We've gone through very difficult times that you are all aware of. There are lots of other areas that we are making do on a daily basis to be able to make sure the country is running. So the fact that that amount of resource has not been brought to the DCL does not mean that we are not committed to complying with the Supreme Court ruling.
Yes. Okay. Honorable Minister, I have in my...
Yes, I think my colleague is finished with that. But Minister, no. Panic on that point. I don't think you finished with your...
I'm not done. I'm referring him to the
Kodo thing again.
Yes, it's here. How much he paid.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Yeah.
Yes. So, Honorable Minister, I have here the PIAC newsletter of issue number 2, July to December 2022. No, I'm entitled to refer to published documents in laying the basis for my question.
Before, Mr. Co-Chairman, before you put a question, this is in relation to which charge, which count, which allegation, isn't it?
Yes, this is non-compliance with the financial and fiscal laws of the country.
Non-compliance.
Yes.
Which, can we go back to the charge sheet? You are redefining.
No.
Well, we do have a charge sheet actually.
So it says that for the first time since Ghana started receiving petroleum revenue in 2011, the DCAF received, that is the District Assembly Common Fund, received an amount of 32,380,403.91, following the 2019 decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Kodo vs. Attorney General. However, the disbursement was made was 1.74% of the ABFA instead of the 5% specified in the Supreme Court judgment. Is that correct?
You know, I don't know that I'm co-chair, that I'm getting through with the answer. I have categorically said that we know of that. And therefore, if you look at the budget, the treatment will show you the equivalent of 5%. And that's a fact. The question is whether we have the resources to be able to comply.
Well, the resource envelope does not matter. What matter is the percentage, whether you are complying with the percentage. So that if you have a small resource envelope, you should still be able to do not less than 5% of that for purposes of complying with Kodo and Attorney General. That is the point that I'm driving at. Anyway, Co-Chair, I think I'm done. Yes.
Okay. Minister, thank you very much. My colleague says it's okay. But let's put it on record. You've been Finance Minister for about 6 years now. This constitution, or the constitutional provision, has been in place since what? 1993, January 93. Do some recollection for us. You can or you can, but do your best. As far as you recall, do you know one single finance minister who has been able to comply to the spirit, to the letter of this particular provision?
This question.
You want me to overrule me?
This question is overruled.
Clerk,
the question is allowed. The question is disallowed.
If the speaker wanted, you, when I finish, you make your comment. I will let you make your comment, but let me do mine.
With this one.
Let me finish mine. No. Listen. Can we have some sanity? Can we have some? Calm down. Nobody would push me from the person.
When you were on the floor on your questions, I did not interrupt.
Co-chairman, but you have actually interrupted me. You said you finished. We thank you, and then I moved on. How did I interrupt you? You are now interrupting me.
But you had finished.
Who had finished?
You had finished.
You know that I had finished.
Yes.
All right. So my question is this: that as far as you know, is there one single finance minister who has been able to comply with this particular provision? It is yes or no.
Yes,
when I'm done and he wants to make whatever it is, yeah, I've made my point. Yes.
End it.
Yeah. Well, who is going to read a point of order on the chairman? Point of order on the chairman. What's wrong with you? Can you answer, Mr. Minister? Who is going to call you? Who is going to call you? Mr. Chairman. Sami, you repeated this. There's another provision in the standard order. What is the standard order? When there's an issue to which the answer has been given, the standard order says you can't repeat that question. You've drawn this into our attention, order 2, and you drawn it to our attention. You've been overruled 2 times. You are still raising it to our attention. You'll be overruled 10,000 times. Minister.
Mr. Co-Chair, no, I really do not know of any, finance minister.
Difficult for finance minister to handle that. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Thank you very much. Sabi, we know the case. We know the case. Podo and Kwashiga and all of them. We know the case. We know the case. It's got antecedents.
Who was the finance minister in 2019?
With all due respect, the Supreme Court decision. It's
a recent decision.
But what is the point about? Yeah, we know that.
What is the relevance in going?
No, I'm saying that. No, we do
finance
know.
Ministers in 1992
completely out of order. Completely out of order. Thank you.
The 2019 decision, please. I mean, I don't get it.
Now, I make my. That's fine. Mr. Finance Minister, thank you very much. Colleagues, members, thank you. Say it again. Oh, yeah, we'll come to that. Yes, we are done with our questions. My colleague and I, we are done with our questions. Members are done with their questions. It's up to you if you want to. No. Let's ask if he has anything to add. If he had anything to add, then we'll decide. Yeah, so it's you. If you have anything to add, then yeah. If you don't, then you are discharged. But if you do.
Truly, let me thank you for this opportunity for the defense. It's a pretty difficult period for me and my family. It's historic and that's dark historic to be censured as finance minister. It's a little bit sad. When also we delve into these grounds and some have had to be stepped down because it's a very serious period in the country's economic history and life, and it sends very strong signals which are quite destabilizing. But let me reiterate my gratitude to the Honorable Speaker and the co-chairs and the committee for at least democracy and rule of law and giving me the opportunity to be here. As I said in my submission earlier today, these grounds have attacked my person, my character, and my professional integrity. And I think we have shown here that those were not very sound, but I wait to hear from the plenary. This has been a really traumatic experience for me. Even more distressingly, the professionalism of the staff at the Ministry of Finance who worked tirelessly in the management of the economy. I'm feeling very tarnished. It's also been a very difficult week for the ministry with the exit of our Minister of State, in a way of that that's not really elicit and enhance or encourage those not in the political sphere to come and help us in this. And also, really, as I mentioned earlier, a very strong name in our political history that through such machinations, has been made to fall. So it's a difficult week. But I have provided direct responses to the grounds brought on me and my ministry, the Ministry of Finance, So, Honorable Co-Chairs, let me reiterate that I have not breached any law for disbursement in respect of the National Cathedral of Ghana, but I strongly believe that the cathedral is an important institution. And as we in finance talk about internal rate of return when we do investments, with the cathedral, it will be an eternal rate of return for this country. I have never sought to be dishonest in fiscal reporting during my tenure. Indeed, it's on record that my tenure has seen the most transparent reporting regime in fiscal, financial, and economic reporting as a country. Under my leadership at the Ministry of Finance, there have been significant improvements in the accurate reporting of public finances under the Fourth Republic. Today, we are enjoying greater accountability and transparency in the management of the public purse. Since 2007, government has complied with the reporting provisions in the PFM Act 2016, Act 921, including Budget Implementation Report, Fiscal Reports, Public Debt Report, Petroleum Revenue Management Reports, ESLA Report, etc. I've not been alarmingly incompetent. Instead, we've been competent in managing the economy. In doing so, we brought much relief to Ghanaians between 2017 and 2021. As a government, we have invested huge amounts of money in the people of Ghana. When we came into government, we were about 12 different transformational projects which we have implemented over the past 6 years. All annual budgets, which included the fiscal operations, were approved by Parliament, and therefore I could not have been reckless. I have not grossly mismanaged the Ghanaian economy. The current challenges is a result of myriad of factors, most of which were inherited and also external in origin. Honorable Co-Chairs, as I have already assured you, even if these challenging times, we have been swift, bold, and responsive. We are embarking on a journey to fundamentally reposition our economy and our post-COVID-19 program for economic growth, which will be supported by the IMF and other friendly sovereigns, will be our guide. We are mindful that there will be significant costs in the fiscal adjustments we intend to make in the coming years to sustain our stability, recovery, and eventual transformation. However, we have a history of being resilient as a people and will come out better and stronger than before. I therefore ask our fellow countrymen to support our push for the needed reforms which will drive the transformation that would enable Ghana to reach upper middle income within a decade. This is a country with real prospects, and the challenges notwithstanding, Ghana will rise again. I have faith in the industry of our compatriots, but more importantly, I have utmost faith in God, who has called us to serve. He is in the ship with us and will see us through the raging storm and bring us to the promised land. Let me conclude with the words of the second stanza of a well-known hymn, "A charge to keep I have, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may I tell my powers engaged to do my master's will." I have served with honesty and service. Thank you for this opportunity. May God bless us all. May God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Thank you very much. As a matter of convention, we don't clap in Parliament. Yes, so thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for attending upon the committee. As I said in the morning, the reason we called you to attend upon the committee is because, in accordance with Article 82(4) of the Constitution, when a motion for the vote of censure is being passed on a minister, that minister is entitled to be heard in his defense. This committee has afforded you the opportunity to amply make your case together with your lawyers. We thank you for attending upon the committee. Today is the last day that was given to us by Mr. Speaker, but hopefully we'll apply to the Speaker for extension of time to be able to file our report next week. And the purpose of the report will be simply to continue the debate on the motion for the vote of censure. And the report will be laid in Parliament hopefully on Tuesday. So I thank you all, Council, for the assistance to the committee, the technical staff of the Ministry of Finance, as well as the political staff, deputy ministers who were here to help, the minister. I saw, or I still see a number of chiefs in the audience. Mrs. Ofori-Atta has been here solidly behind the husband. We thank you for coming to hear this historic meeting of the committee on the vote of censure on the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. Thank all of you. God bless you, and God bless our homeland, Ghana. Oh, sorry. I have to. Okay, you want to thank the media?
Well, the media. You can. No, you do the media stuff.
I can understand why my co-chair is not very happy with the
because they will misquote me.
So ladies and gentlemen of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, we want to thank you very much. But for you, the Ghanaian people would not have heard us live and colored, as we say. You've been here with us on a daily basis, and we want to thank you very much for amplifying the voice of the committee and the voice of the Honorable Minister for Finance. Thank you, and God bless you.
Okay. Well, yes. I guess I should also the class committee. They are our members, so we don't need particularly to thank them. They are part of us. Yeah. But Chief of Staff, I recognize your presence. It would be remiss of me if I didn't put on record. Yeah, well, I mean, if you did, yeah, sure. Again, Nananom, I've seen all of them. Family. We didn't intend to detain you for this length of time. The circumstances have just been that we couldn't do otherwise. The press, you are waiting for me to and then you can, yes, okay. May I as well keep quiet. Thank you. Honorable Minister for Communications, you've been recognized along. Forgive me. I beg your pardon. The Honorable Minister for Communication, the Honorable Esla. I don't know about some guy, please. Esla Owusu. There is another one, isn't it? Ekofo. Okay. I hear the National Security Minister is here. National. Shirley, I'm told that you are there. Should I do our thing? Okay, that's fine. That's for the two of us. And then the Honorable Sports Minister is also here. Mustafa is here. And then who else have we missed out? Master, of course. And then Finance Minister. You remember when you started owing certain words, I told you that don't do it because the cataclysm is mine, and then the apocalyptic is Mr. Apocalyptic. He's here. So he's here. So I think yours is the eco space, isn't it? Ecosystem. You can own your ecosystem. But I guess without justice to everybody here, isn't it? Yes. The majority that has drawn my attention. On what is to happen, the reason why you were brought here, and then the constitutional provisions which underpin why we are here. I mean, it's drawn my attention to those things. We're wondering if it is our responsibility to make sure that to ensure that fairness is completely done, not just to be done, but to be seen to be done. He's entitled to a copy of the draft report before we present it to make sure that he is accurately and fairly recorded in terms of his his submissions. I don't know. We'll decide on that one. Yeah, sure. So that's about it. If there's any protocol we haven't observed, hello. You insist. The Honorable Esiama, the Kwame Esiama. General has long been recognized. He's been recognized. Who is? When we discharge, they will discharge all of you. You know. So, Finance Minister. Well, I wish you well. I don't know whether he also wishes you well, but yeah, we all feel it. You know, we feel it. Censure motion and all of that. I can understand how you feel, but we pray for you. All right. Thank you very much. You are discharged.
So this is still Joy News. The coverage of the censure motion hearings. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta just finished giving his testimony. It's been long hours of speaking to the specific of the Chief of Staff is singing right now, singing about what has happened so far. So that is it, the Chief Justice, the Chief of Staff, the President's Chief of Staff. So we'll be trying to get some reactions to this whole hearings that have happened so far and how this process have gone. The Finance Minister, incredible hearing today, sitting for so many hours. I mean, Finance Minister, sitting for so many hours, and he is now talking to some of his colleague ministers. I mean, Finance Minister, how do you feel? Okay, so Finance Minister, talking to the leadership and other things. Finance Minister, how do you feel about this whole process? Do you feel about this process? Join his life.
I guess it's democracy in play, and we just seek fairness, and we are confident in how the process will evolve. So
next week, will you be presenting the budget? Will you do so yourself?
Yeah, I expect so. That seems to be a weird question.
What do you say to the NPP MPs who say they don't want you to do so next week?
I don't know. I haven't heard that officially, so I'll see. Anyway, but thank you. It's been a very long day. And
the minister has been speaking for a while now. He's just said that he expects to be the one to present the 2023 budget, despite some NPP MPs saying that they don't want him to do so. You heard it here. He says that he expects to be the one to present the budget. Let me try and get some reaction from some of the MPs who have just been here. The majority leader, I'll go to them. Yeah. But just briefly, because we are live on Joy News, I just wanted to know what you've made about the entire process so far. Just a word, leader. Just a word, leader.
I think they endeavor to get to the bottom of the issues, and to the best of their ability. I caught them at the tail end. That's the second half of the interrogation. I got here close to 5. And I think I got the impression that today's business was better structured than what happened the first day. And we are a human institution. We keep improving, and I guess we'll still be able to improve more as we move on, just so that we're able to deepen democratic governance. That's what is important.
So leader, is the Finance Minister going to present a budget next week? Will he do so himself? Do you have some answers?
Please, it's not part of the discourse here.
Are you satisfied with his response so far, considering the fact that as a majority caucus, you were calling for the president to dismiss him?
I told you that I have not been here since morning, so I don't know the full gamut of the responses that is offered. But what I heard, the few minutes that I've been here, I think he did well. He did well, yes.
So the majority...
My worry was about the first 4 questions. They were very serious allegations that bordered on criminality. That was my worry. But it's good that the committee themselves have come to some agreement that to the extent that there were no sufficient evidence adduced to those matters. I think they've struck 2 out. So we're making progress. Let's see how it goes. Right.
Okay, so the majority leader saying that he is excited with the work that has been done so far. So, Chairman, I mean, you've had some words for some media houses. You say you are going to go to court, or some people have misreported you.
Yeah, sure. I'm suing Ghana Web. Yeah, I'm suing them. Yeah, I've already instructed my lawyers. I'm suing them. Yesterday, I gave the opportunity for Ghana Web to get this matter straight and clear. I sat here as the chairman, very busily concentrating on my staff here. I only to read the following day that somebody from the public gallery was trying to teleguide me. I found that incredible. And when I looked at the pictures that were being circulated, there was nothing remotely resembling somebody trying to catch my attention. There's somebody sitting in there who was tapping around with a phone, playing around with the phone. Absolutely nothing to do with me. Eventually, the camera moved from there at some 1 hour or some whatever later. You couldn't tell when the camera was spotted on me. And then there seems to be somebody suggests that there's a link. I come and make it a complaint that I'm not happy about it. I would have thought that they will remedy it. What they published today is more outrageous. Today they put it on record, Ghana will put it on record that there are a lot of recordings about that man and myself synchronizing moves and me catching his attention, and from the camera, from the recordings that are making the rounds, you could clearly see that he caught my attention and I was concentrating. That's outrageous. So
you had the co-chair of the committee saying that he's going to. So, Dr. Ayine, we are live on Joy News. I just wanted to know this part about striking out the 2 grounds. Is this something that you've come to agreement on, about striking the grounds?
No. It is all about nomenclature, right? Because our understanding of the decision with respect to the 2 grounds was that once the preliminary objection was raised, and then we're running into issues of constitutionality, the entire committee, unanimously, and if there is anybody who has a contrary view, they should let me know. The committee unanimously said, given the nature of the objection raised, we were going to allow for that to be indicated, and a formal ruling be put in our report to Parliament, and for us to be able to generate debate on the issue. Now, that doesn't mean that puts finality to the issue as to whether Parliament has the power to inquire into matters of conflict of interest. This is a parliamentary committee. It is an extension of Parliament. But once we are investigating or inquiring into matters of public of interest, then it raises an issue of constitutionality. So it was a unanimous decision of the committee that we should take it to plenary. Now, that is not striking out. In respect of the second issue regarding the 100 million, all right, the committee took the view that, given the fact that GMPC had explained the genesis of the payment and had said that it was Talo that paid the money to Jubilee Holdings and into his account in London, there was no basis why we should call him to answer. That is all about it. It's got nothing to do with us deciding that nothing, yes.
Thank you, Doc. So, co-chair saying that he does not believe that these grounds have been struck out, right? So, Honorable Katie Amon is asking us out almost briefly, but really, right? So, okay. So that has been it here at the committee, where the members deliberating, talking about the finance minister and the specific grounds of allegations that have been made against them. So, I wanted to know if I could get Andrew Ejapamesa to comment about some of the things. Andrew Ejapamesa, the finance minister, are you satisfied with the kind of performance he put up today?
Absolutely, not a doubt at all. If you look at the motion that was tabled and so-called grounds that were canvassed, clearly, the finance minister discharged himself creditably, demonstrated to the people of Ghana what it is that he's done. The accusations that have been leveled against him clearly unfounded. And so I'm especially satisfied with the delivery of the finance minister before the committee today.
So, I mean, it follows that you are going to vote to acquit the minister.
Well, it is not for me at this point, save that, yes, when we go to the floor and the debate is concluded, I would definitely support the finance minister and oppose the motion for his removal, without a doubt at all. Because think about it. I mean, on the allegations that were leveled, you sat through the process. Do you think that the allegations were made out such that the finance minister should be removed from office? Do you think so? I don't think so at all. And for me, the good people of this country who listened through the process are at them with me that the finance minister ought to continue his work.
Thank you, Honorable. So.